Hello, I am C-3PO, and I believe the storyteller is ready, so let us begin.
So we begin this 20-minute segment, which is basically all just combat high action for 20 minutes.
Pretty much.
With Luke kind of finalizing things with his medical droid and then convening out where Han is about to leave for good this time, and he's ready to go out and take on the Empire, which has, of course, discovered where the Rebel base is.
Yep. We find Darth Vader in his meditation chamber. He tells General Veers that Ozzel has failed him for the last time, and he chokes out Ozzel on camera, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a trend for the movie for the next little bit.
Then we proceed into battle. Of course, Luke is rogue leader. There's a couple other guys out there, and basically they have to take on these big Imperial four-legged giant AT-ATs. I wanted to call them Imperial walkers, AT-ATs.
Same thing.
But there's also other walkers with two legs, right?
True, those are AT-STs. Hence the reason why they're not AT-ATs, everyone.
AT-Saints.
They're AT-ATs.
Thank God, yes. And so it doesn't go very well. Luke's co-pilot gets killed pretty early on in battle. It's going really poorly. Eventually, they figure out a way to trip the AT-ATs, the AT-ATs.
Yes, they use their harpoons to kind of circle the legs and essentially just collapse them from there. The rebels aren't doing well, but they're starting to flee because the Imperials have entered the base.
Meanwhile, Han is still hanging around, and Leia's like, we gave you clearance to go. Why don't you just get the hell out of here? And he's like, no. And so eventually they kind of win the battle, but the war's not over because Vader and the snowtroopers have also now infiltrated Hoth, and they're coming for them. So we need to make a clean break, and everybody kind of crowds onto the Falcon.
Yep, so everyone left, crowds onto the Falcon. Luke gets off into his X-Wing and flies off to go to Dagobah because of what Obi-Wan told him in the last movie. Han is evading asteroids and TIE fighters in space as they escape from the Hoth system.
Because their cloaking isn't working.
Because their cloaking isn't working, that's right. Well, no, it's not specifically their cloaking, but their
hyperspeed.
I forget what specifically was broken, but 3PO was telling them.
Yes.
And so as a result, they can't get away, so they just have to hide within a really large asteroid.
And they're just about to make the drop down into Dagobah. That is Luke and R2. All you can really sense is that there's some form of life existing on the planet below.
Yeah. So that was probably the hardest 20 to sum up because it was just a battle scene that, in theory, we could have summed up in like 6 seconds.
Well, we summed it up in like 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes, so we like drew it out and made it more complicated than it had to be. Yeah, there was a big battle, and it didn't go very well for anybody.
Exactly. Nobody got what they wanted. The rebels had to leave Hoth, and the Imperials didn't really catch anyone.
No, exactly. Now, why exactly did Vader have to come down onto the soil?
Because he's obsessed.
With Luke?
He's obsessed with Luke, yeah.
Okay.
He's obsessed with finding Luke Skywalker. And so I think it's purely just a matter of, well, he blew up the Death Star and he evaded Vader and everyone else. So if anyone's going to be able to take down this Wonder Boy, it's got to be him.
Did a starfighter actually land on Hoth? Because how else are these AT-ATs on the planet?
I don't know the specifics on how that would work, but likely some form of, probably not like a full-fledged Star Destroyer, but likely some form of smaller vessel.
Or some kind of just big gear freighter,
I
guess.
Yep, I would imagine. General Veers, whatever he took down to Hoth, because he was the one who started the infiltration in the AT-ATs.
What exactly did General Veers do wrong? Why exactly did he get choked out?
No, that was Ozzel. So yeah. Veers didn't get choked out. He didn't do anything wrong, but Ozzel specifically, he brought them too close to Hoth.
Yeah.
And so as a result, the rebels noticed and put up their shields, and therefore they couldn't actually just blow up the base with the Star Destroyer, or else they would have never even had to go down to the base.
He blew their cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Although really, did Darth Vader want to blow up Hoth while Luke Skywalker's down there? And Leia, for that matter, which he may or may not know about?
Well, he doesn't know yet, because he has a conversation with the Emperor later in the movie.
Right.
To realize that Anakin Skywalker's children are still alive, or has a child that's still alive. I don't think Vader ever
But he's obsessed with Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. But he's obsessed with him because of his force powers, not necessarily because he's his son yet. Yeah. He makes the connection, I think, after. So when he hears from Palpatine or hears from the Emperor per se, that Anakin Skywalker's kid's alive. This did not happen in the 20, but when he hears that, he's able to put things together.
Now, as you said, we saw him do something we've never seen with the Force before up to this point, which is Force choke. Now, we've seen him use Force choke before, but never
From such a distance.
remotely.
I know. That was what's super cool.
So the mystery is, can he just Force choke anyone in the galaxy whenever he wants, or does he have to have some kind of connection to that person in the moment, even if it's some kind of artificial digital connection?
I would assume so. I would assume, like, in the sense that the Force, it surrounds us, it binds us together. So you have to have some form of connection to be able to almost like leverage the Force. That's kind of the way I see it anyway.
Right.
But we also looked at the way kind of Snoke linked the minds of Kylo and Rey. So that was done kind of remotely. So who knows? It's impressive with the way the Force can be used, and Darksiders know how to use it the most.
And he definitely choked him to death. He didn't just like choke him out and fire him.
Oh no, he choked him to death. Vader doesn't half-ass anything.
Yes, and we know he's brutal. There's no mystery there. Yeah. But like some sanitation person has to like clean up the body of his boss.
Yeah,
he's just hanging out on deck while everyone else is like, "Oh, don't make Vader angry again."
Yeah, I mean, what's it, Matt the? What did Adam Driver play on SNL? Matt the
Matt the sanitation guy or
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'd probably have to come clean it up or something.
I have a hard time. I mean, I know everybody within the Empire, especially people who work on the Death Star, are like brainwashed essentially. Mm-hmm. But I have a hard time believing that their leader could just be murdering their friends and colleagues and superiors willy-nilly, and there wouldn't be some kind of revolt.
They're terrified of him.
I know, but if the hundreds of thousands of Imperial soldiers who worked aboard that ship stood up to Vader, he would lose.
Yeah, but in theory, you could always say that. I mean, they could also, in theory, do that to the Emperor, but the Emperor could take down probably a couple hundred, and Vader could easily take down a couple hundred.
Right, and I guess also we're living through this very strange thing in actual history where people just blindly follow the person who's in charge.
Constantly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fear plays a huge role. Order plays a role. I mean, just not questioning your superiors it's just the way of the Empire. It's the way of a lot of different governments and militaries.
While we're on the subject, let me give you my Padawan question.
Cool. I'll give you mine too.
What is the name of the new admiral, captain turned admiral, after Vader chokes out the other guy to death?
Piet.
Piet. He has a French name.
He does.
Very nice.
Yes.
What happens to Piet? Like after this, does he have a future in the saga? Does he like go on to be a pretty successful leader, or is he just another guy who gets raked aside?
I'm 95% sure he gets choked out in the next 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure Piet is the next
paperwork
casualty
wasn't
of war.
even done.
No.
Jeez.
No, not at all.
Piet. You want to give me one?
All right, I will give you one. This is one that, well, yeah. You know I'm not great when it comes to making the questions.
Why can't you just make an easy one?
You
picked all three difficult questions.
Well, I did have an easy one, and then I accidentally, when giving the summary, gave you the answer.
Oh, okay.
So I can't.
That doesn't mean I won't.
No. I literally just said it. The question was initially going to be, who's the first officer killed by Vader in the movie?
Ozzel?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Fair enough. So actually, I will stick with that as mine, just purely on the basis of.
Of pity?
No, okay, screw it then. I'll give you one. I'll bump down my knight to a Padawan and give you a couple of master questions.
Okay.
So, which planet in the Hoth system were the rebels hiding?
That was my question for the knight question.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, the 6th.
It was the 6th.
So this is really an interesting point because we always think of Hoth as a planet, the planet Hoth or the planet Dagobah. In many cases, it's just a system.
Yep. Like the Hosnian system or the Dagobah system. And it's like there's a whole series.
Right, but these things aren't really explained in Star Wars as far as I know. They just use the words planet and system interchangeably.
I've never heard like a full explanation in a Star Wars piece of content. I'm sure it's out there. I'm definitely sure it's out there.
Well, that and like how does a system differ from a galaxy? Like it's a cluster of planets, I guess.
I would assume it's a cluster of very small planets.
Yes.
So like almost like dwarf planets, ones that wouldn't necessarily register on their own accord, or ones that aren't necessarily heavily populated, although that doesn't really work with like the Hosnian system.
So how many different planets are in the Hoth system? There's at least 6.
There's at least 6.
And are they all remote?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I want to see some civilization in Hoth.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case though. Hoth isn't exactly a fun place to be on.
No, it's
That's
not really.
What we saw. No, I mean, there's nothing to do. It's just wasteland. It's cool as hell, and it's really interesting as what it brings to the Star Wars universe, and that's why we all love it so much because it's so different. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot going on. But you could also say the same thing about like Octu, which just seems to be water except for this one little island.
Yeah.
And there's caretakers and porgs on that.
That's right. I don't know if I'd call it civilization.
No, but there's some form of life.
Yep.
So, I mean, even though there's probably not tons of life on Hoth, we know that there's Tauntauns. I don't know if they're like kind of an indigenous species to Hoth, but the Wampa is at least. So
let's rattle through a couple of quotes.
Yeah.
You mentioned before we started recording, it's not exactly the most quotable 20 minutes of Star Wars
Super
ever.
isn't.
Well, there's not
really.
even a whole lot of dialogue.
No.
But there are a couple of lines that fly under the radar. I mean, we have one that is probably going to be the title of this episode, which is "Never tell me the odds."
That one's used too much.
Never tell me the odds. Excuse me. What is happening to me? It's used too much. It's used a lot.
I got to imagine how many times Han says, "Never tell me the odds." Never tell me the odds, Star Wars.
It was definitely the most memeable line in this 20.
Maybe it's just because it's so damn synonymous with that character that I assume he says it as frequently as I have a bad feeling about this almost. But,
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. I can't seem to find it with quick results, but if someone can tell us how many times "Never tell me the odds" is used.
Yeah, tweet us at Recorder66
Yeah.
on Twitter. There are a couple of little lines that just kind of get squeezed in there that I don't think anybody really pays much attention to, but some of them are golden. Like
Some of them really are.
Towards the end, we're having a little trouble with the Falcon, and Leia says, "Do you want me to get out and push? Would it help if I got out and pushed?"
Yeah, that was an excellent one.
It's an amazing line, and it's also a super meta line because, like, that is an Earthling expression.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about cars when you say that, and like presumably they do have vehicles in the galaxy far away that have wheels, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe you do have to get out and push sometimes. But it's just so anachronistic of Star Wars vehicles that it's all the more funny to hear her say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because I know in one of the trailers for Solo, he calls himself a driver and a flyer. Specifically.
interesting.
And so I thought that was really interesting. First of all, flyer is a weird word, not pilot.
Right.
But driver, I mean, it's just something you don't really think of when you hear Star Wars. It's always pilot and flying.
Maybe he's going to be on some like big tank like in Fury Road.
Very possible, yeah. Just based on a lot of the stuff. But we'll get into there's tons of Solo stuff to talk about when you have that break and pre-record the first episode for Empire because you go on vacation. It can throw some things into the wrench because the world of Star Wars is constantly new news, which is awesome.
And that movie's coming out in 2 weeks.
It's coming out pretty darn soon. Getting excited.
Very, very exciting.
But some other great quotes.
Yep.
He's as clumsy as he is stupid.
Who says
General,
that?
prepare your troops for a surface attack. Vader.
Vader says it.
Yeah, he's as clumsy as he is stupid. That is a golden line. It's right before he kills Ozzel.
It's really, really bitter. There was a really funny, I think it was an Imperial troop who uttered it. I don't know if these characters even have names, but like one of the first quotes I actually wrote down as quotable is... where is it? Enemy ships are entering our field. Good, our first catch of the day.
Oh, nice. I didn't even catch that one.
It's just kind of cheeky and has some personality to it, and it's like a slang term. It's a better line than you tend to give to an extra.
It's definitely a better line than you give an extra in Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral. Insanely menacing.
It's a very Vader-esque
It's very
line.
Vader, like General Vader's "Prepare your men." I
Right.
just love the menacing lines. There's a couple ones that aren't necessarily great lines, but the context of them is so funny.
Yeah.
So no. This one goes there. That one goes there. Right. So it's when Han's talking to Chewie and Chewie's trying to repair the Falcon, and Han just like walks over to him like he's a total idiot and he's just making like really dumb mistakes.
Totally.
And the walk, I was blown freaking away because in preparation for obviously this podcast, I watched as much of recent Solo trailers as I could, just have them fresh in my mind.
Right.
And it was also right after I'd watched this 20. And so the walk of Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich has it down.
You got the walk.
That's impressive.
Yep.
And I was really happy to see that. And like, it's something that it's not Han's standard walk, but it's like this sort of like weird, like tippy toeing sort of walk.
Really?
It's a weird walk. He looks really funny, but then there's but in one of the trailers, Alden has a very similar walk, and so it's awesome. I was really impressed.
I've heard of actors doing exactly that before. I know Ashton Kutcher did it when he played Steve Jobs. Like, it was the most important thing he could do to get in the mind of that character, or to really feel like that character, was to learn how they walk, even more so than how they talk or how they look in their face, walking like that person. And I guess, to be fair, it does really evoke the physical sense of a person to walk
Steve
like
Jobs
that.
also has a very specific sort of, like, people have seen him on stage, like, showcasing products, so they know the way he presents himself as a person.
Yes.
And so that would give Ashton Kutcher a lot of material to go off
Well,
of.
and posture in general
Yep.
says a lot about what a person looks like. Whenever I think of posture, I always think of Robert Downey Jr., who has a very specific way of standing. Like,
Yes, he does.
Like, people won't be
Good
able to
point.
see me right now, but he has like a very, like, he pushes out his front, and he kind of stands on his tiptoes a little bit, and his butt gets really flat, and he puts his arms behind his back.
I can just picture him doing that
It's
just based on that description. That's
It's
really good. Yeah,
a
it's
very
interesting.
specific Robert Downey Jr. posture. And so if you were to play him in a movie, you would have to learn to do that. And people would notice, even if they're not sure why.
That's interesting. And that's a good point. And specifically, there was one cool thing just on Solo again, is Ron Howard, as soon as he got the job, he called Harrison Ford.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know that, but that's awesome. He called him and asked him for pointers, and apparently he was giving some really interesting advice about, like, the psyche of Han Solo, and not just about, like, even like the subtle things like walk talk, but just like the mindset that a character like that would have, so that he could impart some wisdom on Alden.
Weird to me that Harrison Ford could get actory about a character like Han Solo. Like, he's a good actor, but I kind of think of him more as just your typical, like, just show up and say the lines kind of guy.
I definitely agree, but when it comes to Ron Howard, everybody, like, it's a different scenario. He is so heavily respected. It is insane.
Yeah.
Like, you can't talk about Solo without Ron Howard love coming up from somebody in the cast or somebody on set, because it's just, he's such a pro.
Yeah.
And I love that they've done that with Star Wars. They need to do that. Having guys like Jon Favreau, that's the way it should be. And if Solo's a hit, I absolutely 100% want Ron Howard back. I mean, if you can have a pro like that who's able to get into the Star Wars world and make it work, you don't let that go. It makes him money. I'm sure it's been fun for him. And, like, let's face it, if you can give us that sort of adventure vibe Star Wars that everybody likes, and a movie that everyone was prepared to hate but has already kind of turned the perspective on, and everyone's really hoping to like it now.
I hope so.
Like, that says a lot about someone's ability.
He also finds himself in a really unique position as a Star Wars director, in that he's kind of safe, because if the movie turns out good, he gets all the credit.
Yep.
And if it doesn't, everybody understands and they don't blame him.
No one will give him any of the blame.
No.
That's a really good point. He actually has a really safe spot going for him in that regard.
It could turn out bad, and he could still direct a Star Wars movie, and people wouldn't be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
People
that's
would
true.
probably still be cool with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Any other quotes? There's tons of quotes, actually.
Well, we had a really good Han Solo throwaway line when he was talking about a blabbering C-3PO. He says, shut him up or shut him down.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing droid line.
It really is. Sorry, just one more on the Han Solo. Not necessarily a great line, but context around it is just an ow Chewie. He screams when Chewie doesn't move the toolbox and it falls on his head as he's fixing the Falcon.
Yeah.
That looked like it hurt.
You know what? That image was really evocative of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, when he's bouncing up and down from the floorboards of the Falcon,
Mm-hmm.
and only because I've seen The Force Awakens more than I've seen The Empire Strikes Back in the last couple of years, it looked like Rey bouncing up and down, and there's no way JJ didn't do that on purpose.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, if you get a Star Wars movie to direct and write, you watch, like, Empire 12 times in a row as you're writing a scene just purely about the Falcon. So, or at least we certainly would hope so.
It's to use musical terms, that shot rhymes with the other shot. And another one that I noticed was Vader marching into Hoth with the troops behind him.
I love that.
It was beautiful, and it was badass, and it was so Vader, but it looks like Kylo Ren marching into Jakku, like showing up for the invasion, which in many cases the Sith Lord doesn't do. He works alone. No, he was there, a military man, and he was going to fuck some stuff up.
Yep, no, it was really awesome. I wrote that down as one of kind of like the key moments that when I think of Empire Strikes Back and when I think of Hoth, I think of this sort of moment, like one of those kind of moments that really kind of brings you back to what you first remember about these movies.
Yeah.
And that specific moment of just Vader marching through with his military, that's just as badass as it comes.
Yeah, it's like a calendar picture. It's
Yeah.
a desktop. It's so cool.
That and Imperial troops have entered the base. When that was yelling out in the sirens in the back, that was awesome because once again, referencing back to the shitty demo Star Wars games that we would play from like almost cereal boxes the games probably came from.
Yeah.
But that specifically was the first line in the entire game because it was just ringing over the PA system right in the first level.
Totally.
And it just brought me back there immediately. So I love that.
The thing that awoke my childhood in this 20 were just in general the snow troopers. Is that what they're called? The snow...
You'll find out when my next trivia question comes.
Oh, no. Okay, well, ask me.
What are the snowtroopers called according to the Empire?
The Imperial... Snow Brigade.
Not at all.
Sounds like a dance troupe.
No, the Cold Assault Stormtroopers.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cold Assault. I just love how flat their masks are.
It is so KKK.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It's
Don't ruin it for me.
Well, it's like, they're all space Nazis.
I know, but they're soldiers.
Yeah.
It's different than just like being... I mean, the KKK and Nazis are different. Not that
That's true.
Not that I'm excusing either
Although
one.
similar sort of mentalities.
Yes.
All equally terrible.
Right. But like KKK meets in the woods and burns stuff.
Yeah, fair.
Whereas like these stormtroopers are like working for somebody and they're going in to do a job.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's good for the Nazis to
No.
do.
I know what you're saying.
But they're military people and their gear is cool to look at. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
They blend in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we're not hitting it very well when it comes to the trivia. We've had one repeat. We had one that I flubbed up by giving you the answer to.
It's okay. It's bound to happen.
But
Let me give you my Padawan question.
okay.
What is... Oh, we already did
You're-
this. Piet.
Yeah, you did the Piet, and we both burned our own night question.
That's okay. We had the same night question. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, well then let me give you my master question.
Go for it.
As long as we're there. What are the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field?
3,720 to 1.
Yes, it is. You had that written down?
No, I just know that one.
Yeah, that's one of your most quotable quotes there too. Mm-hmm.
They never tell me the odds ones. I mean, 3PO's got a lineup of those.
Right. 3,720 to 1 and they pull it off.
Yeah. I'll have another one. I have another trivia question for you. It's not one that I had down, but just another one that I'll throw your way.
Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right.
What is the actual model name of the Snowspeeder?
What snow speeder?
What do you think they're flying around all over?
Okay. Those things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to guess it.
Yeah, no. Well, twist. They're not actually called snow speeders. They're air speeders. It's a
Well, that's what threw me off.
T-47 air speeder is the term.
Okay. I never really liked those ships.
They're weird.
Yeah.
They always reminded me of, like, I don't know. Is that the ship that is the terrible Disney ride?
I think so.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Because that's always what I think of. I haven't, obviously, we've mentioned that a couple times now and haven't done it in like 18 years, but.
Now, Dak dies, Luke's co-pilot,
Immediately.
right away, and Luke's just in there with a dead body.
Dak's an idiot, too.
Yeah.
One of the things I had as a take back for this was Dak's line, right now, I feel like I could take on the whole Empire myself.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Yes. Yeah. I
So
know.
no, you can't, Dak.
Now, did Wedge die?
No. So the only people who survived that of the Rogue Squadron.
Rogue 3 died.
So I think no, I don't think so. I think Rogue 3 was Wedge and
Then Rogue 2
Wedge
died.
and Jansen, and Rogue 2 died, which was I think Zev.
All right.
Let me see. I did write that down somewhere.
But my point is, with the number of deaths that happen on their like front line of pilots, including whoever was sitting in there with Luke Skywalker, that's a huge loss to the rebels. Like, surely they put some of their best guys out on the front.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, I just checked, and so Zev's gone, and I think Hobby died, and so a few people even from like the last movie, for example. So the rebels have nothing going for them at
They
this
take
point.
a beating. Holy moly!
Like the Rebel Alliance is tiny at this point.
Yeah.
And have Luke not even meet at the rendezvous point, and have Leia and Han being captured later in the movie. I mean, imagine if they didn't get out alive. The Rebel Alliance is done.
Yeah. Well, it's no wonder
Lando saves the entire Rebel Alliance.
no wonder they all deify Luke Skywalker. He's the only person who can get anything done whatsoever.
That's definitely true.
Now,
well, Han gets shit done.
he does for sure, but he can't be trusted.
No.
This is very cool, however ridiculous it was, when Luke gets out of his speeder and then, like, kind of climbs his way up into the underbelly of the AT-AT and then slashes a hole open in the underbelly to throw a grenade up there. That all is very, very cool.
It's extremely cool. Although I'm not quite sure how he slashes that hole because it's a perfect man door.
Thank you. I was
So-
going to say that too. He slashes it once and it's a perfect rectangle.
The only thing I can think of, because I had to watch it a couple times and I couldn't really see, is maybe he slashed a control panel.
Oh, maybe. But
That's
even
possible.
Still, yeah, something that was just already there, like a plate that was waiting to be removed.
No, I mean like a control panel and the door opened. It was
Yeah.
like a little man door that opened. And so he didn't actually slash open a hole, maybe.
Are those things manned?
AT-ATs?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They're not just like remotely piloted?
Nope. So when you bring them down, you're also getting some kills.
Yeah, that's pretty good. How many were there? Like 3?
I don't remember.
Isn't
Now,
like
that would have been a master trivia question.
Yeah, enough that it's like actually causing some problems.
Yeah, and there's a
obviously.
couple ATSTs, and we all saw how terrible most of the Rebel pilots were, so.
They walk fairly choppily, not unlike the Tauntauns we discussed last week.
Yeah, but I actually thought it kind of worked because they're robots as opposed to being like an organic creature.
Sure.
And I don't know. For me, it kind of just felt like, oh, that's just how they walk. And like the ATSTs, they're very choppy, but they're also only have 2 legs.
Yeah, they're
So I
weird.
don't know how they keep their balance anyway.
Well, they kind of have knees.
They have like inverted knees.
Yeah, that's how they keep from being too top heavy.
Yeah.
I actually like those a lot. I think those are really cool.
Oh, I have an AT-AT shirt, and it's like all like identifies every single like part on the AT-AT or Imperial Walker also.
No, I meant I like the ATSTs.
The AT-STs.
Yeah.
I think of Endor when I think of the AT-STs.
Yeah, you think of Chewie popping out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I know. I just think they're really, really cool.
Definitely. Let's see. There's a couple other. This bucket of bolts is never going to get us past that blockade. It's one line. It's a good one. This is one that I had never heard before. I had to whip up the script for Empire Strikes Back to specifically make sure I got this one right.
Yep.
Is hurry up, Goldenrod, or you're going to be a permanent resident.
Who said that?
Han says it to 3PO as he's falling behind when they're boarding the Falcon to leave.
You're going to be a permanent resident is amazing.
Hurry up, Goldenrod.
Hurry up, Goldenrod sounds like a porn name. Goldenrod. That's too cool for 3PO.
It is too cool.
3PO had one of my
Permanent
favorite.
resident was good.
He had one of my favorite lines in the 20. In fact, he says it to R2. He says, "R2, you take good care of Master Luke now. You understand, and do take good care of yourself." It's a very sweet line.
Yeah, he does have some sweet lines to R2.
He occasionally shows affection for R2.
R2 just never shows it back.
As far as we can tell.
As far as we can tell, we can't read R2. But for the most part, 3PO is always giving R2 shit because he's a dick.
Yeah, he's kind of a pain in the butt for sure. That's all I have for quotes.
Punch it, Colin. Punch it.
Oh, we had a punch it in there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I did check. I think Punch It only happens, I think we're going to get our third Punch It, obviously, in Solo. But I think Punch It's only said, I looked it up and I could only see one from Lando and one from Han.
The medical droid who Luke is talking to in his opening scene looks an awful lot like, is it TK from Rogue One?
K2?
K2, yeah. He looks a lot like he's kind of got the same
A
mechanics.
similar sort of build, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it must have just been sort of like an era. That was kind of the style that they were going for. 3PO's an older, like, protocol droid.
Well, K2 looks like something from the older Star Wars movies. They really
Yeah.
designed him well.
Well, K2 is an Imperial droid.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but this is like a health droid. So who knows? Those are probably standard. I'm sure the Rebellion and the Empire used the same sort of doctor droids.
Now, I had an artistic observation towards the end of the 20 where Luke is hovering above R2 and he's above Dagobah and he's talking to R2 and he says there's definitely something alive down there, and that is followed by Han and everybody in the Falcon taking the deep cave dive into that big hole. And it makes you wonder if that is a parallel that only Lawrence Kasdan is clever enough to come up with, because as we know, there is something alive down that deep cave hole.
That's really interesting. I never would have picked up on that one.
Yeah.
Do you know about Dagobah and being like a Force Nexus and how that works?
No.
And so that's kind of what I interpret this specifically as, because I know Dagobah to be a Force Nexus, but a Force Nexus is essentially a place within the galaxy or a thing that the Force is just stronger around.
Okay.
And so Dagobah in specifically is a dark side nexus. And so like the cave that
Yes.
Luke goes into. Like Korriban is a dark side nexus. It's a planet with a lot of Sith history and lore. Octu, it's a light side nexus. So it's a place where the Force is stronger and it just has like a greater presence. And the reason why Luke was specifically there because it was the Jedi Temple and such. And so, that's Dagobah is giving off Force energy in spades, and that's what Luke's picking up.
Is that right? That's so very interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
What does it say about Luke that...
There's another word for Force Nexus. I'll look it up.
What does it say about Luke that he
Virgins.
doesn't... Virgins?
Yeah, Force Virgins is the other term for it.
He doesn't want to put on the autopilot or have R2 drive. He says, no, I'm just going to keep it in manual for a while. What does that say about Luke, who just got through like a pretty harrowing battle, should probably want to take it easy, doesn't really know what he's getting into on Dagobah either, but no, he wants to stay focused. He wants to fly. So I was just not really sure if it was Anakin's stubbornness about constantly being in control and constantly having to prove yourself and being focused as a warrior more so than a Jedi that is kind of exhibiting now in Luke's insistence on continuing to pilot, or if it's just like a joy of being out there and being free.
I kind of think it's more of that.
Yeah.
But partially in Luke's following his instincts. Like maybe he doesn't even, I don't even really know why he would know where Dagobah was, but I think it's more as he was able to blow up the Death Star without using the machine.
Yeah.
And so I think he's just trying to feel out his senses and see how well he can tap into the Force to rely on that, as opposed to like his relying on like an autopilot.
It's interesting how Luke goes back and forth between being open-minded and closed-minded about the Force, isn't it? Like in some cases he seems to be like really turned off from it, like really stubborn and really like struggling to understand how something can be, and other times he really seems to get it, even early on.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, well, we're also going to see a ton of that. The next 20 is going to be loaded with great quotes and just some of the best Star Wars in history.
Yes.
The
Great
rest of
Star
this-
Wars exposition.
Well, this entire movie is just loaded with the best Star Wars in history.
This is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Any other observations you made about this clip? Because it's really just a whole lot of battle, and like you said, we're kind of heading into some interesting, quieter scenes.
So I'll rhyme off a few things. Couple of quotes. They'd be crazy to follow us, wouldn't they? Says Han.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this to impress me, says Leia. I think, and like in a very like honest way.
Yeah.
Like not even trying to goat him or try and get him going. It's purely just like, please don't kill us here.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's funny how thick they lay on the sexual tension between these two immediately in this movie to really kind of get you away from the Luke and Leia thing.
Well, Han throws himself on Leia at one point as well when the roof caves in.
Yeah.
And like he does it in a way that's like very protecting, but immediately gets up and then just like kind of like shakes things off as if like nothing happened, and just like is looking the other direction. And
How much older than her is he?
9 years, I think.
Is that it? It's
Yeah.
not so bad, I guess, except that she's pretty young when they met.
Yeah, I think in A New Hope he's either 28 or 29.
Oh, okay, that's all right. I mean, she's a teenager, but like she's a little older now, I guess. And maybe rules are different. Half your age plus 7 doesn't apply
In a galaxy far, far away.
I don't know. I'm not here to talk about political correctness in another galaxy.
Only a couple takebacks here. I thought the production value was incredible.
Yep.
Which is always nice. The aim of the AT-ATs is insanely bad.
Yeah.
And also they even show an angle of them firing the guns, and they're not even aiming at the troops.
Right.
They're aiming like 50 yards in front of them. And they're just shooting at snow. So no kidding, you're losing.
Well, like you said, they have stormtroopers manning them. What do you expect?
Well, yeah, good
I
point.
thought the loose voltage in Luke's ship when he starts to go down is really corny. You can like see the electricity like
yeah, that
kind of
was pretty
waving
lame.
over all of the interior of his starship. It looks really silly. And
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't have that one down, but that's definitely one to take back.
yeah.
And the final take back was the spinning of one of the speeders as the AT-AT shoots it out of the sky. It spins away like Darth Vader's ship does at the
Yeah.
end of A New Hope.
Yeah.
And just this like ridiculous like
It's clearly an effect the filmmakers are proud of, and they wanted to get the most out of it.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been proud of it.
But it's physiologically not very likely.
Yeah. There's a really nice moment between Luke and Han
Yeah.
when Luke's about to leave before they get attacked by the Empire. And they just kind of like share like a little bit of a glance, and then Luke walks away and he looks back, and they don't say anything to each other, but it's just, you can tell that they're both worried about each other, and they want to make sure, and it really cements their friendship even more, like it was in that first 20 minutes,
Right?
Because we also don't see these two again until the friggin' sand barge.
Well, and it's best to contrast it with the last time we saw these two guys in a hangar together right before a battle, which was towards the end of A New Hope, and it was very frosty between those two.
Good point.
And so now they've got this history, and they've got this loyalty to one another, and to a greater good, a greater organization, and like you said, a respect.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's it for me. I mean, I would say let's move on to some news of Star Wars.
Well, tell me what you got, because I know there's like all these little clips being peppered on the internet.
There is a ton.
Now, what have we specifically learned about Solo the movie in the last couple of weeks, just publicly? Like all these little clips have come out. We watched a really fun little clip this afternoon where they make a direct reference to the fact that Lando mispronounces Han, just as kind of a way. It's just kind of like a power move.
Yep.
That's cool.
Can I ask you a question, Captain Calrissian?
Anything, Han? That's Han, but that's okay.
But that was interesting in the way he's like, he just specifically says it's Han, but it doesn't really matter.
He corrects him, yeah.
Well, that was cool because the correction part and the fact that Lando heard that immediately and then never changed it.
Right.
Still called him Han forever.
Yep.
So that was kind of a cool little exchange. But the chemistry of those two have is exceptional.
I think so, too.
It's so good.
Yeah, I think so.
I've loved everything that I've seen. It's still the only thing that ever took me out of it was that very first one we ever got. I've got a good feeling about this, but everything else has been so good that I don't even remember that thing when I think of this.
I don't know why that bothers you
It doesn't really bother me as much now, but seeing as there were only a couple lines in that first trailer, it really stuck out to me at the time. But if looking at all the things we've seen now, it wouldn't have stood out to me if we had seen this all at once.
Okay.
So everything I've seen, for the most part, I've just been really excited by. There's been a lot, though. A lot of different things that we've learned. So from some of the new clips, we saw Beckett beating Chewie at a game of holo chess.
Yeah.
And Chewie getting really pissed off about it and trying to knock all the pieces over, but couldn't because they're holograms.
Again, I don't think it's in Chewie's character to be a sore loser. I find that so frustrating when
He's been a sore loser his forever.
No, I don't see that.
Let the Wookiee win.
I know, but I don't see that in his personality.
It doesn't fit anywhere else. I agree. But then it also, they say like that Chewie has this temper side to him that we don't really get to see a whole lot either.
Not much.
But we have seen it once or twice, and we would have seen it in The Force Awakens in like a major capacity in one of the deleted scenes when he tears off Unkar Plutt's arms.
Right.
Which I think they probably should have kept in so that we could have seen some of that rage side of things. But that's just kind of what I related to. Like he's just got a really bad temper, but he can keep it bottled up most of the time.
Okay.
Some other cool things that we saw was a really great clip of Beckett and Val, and they're on Mimban, and they're in Imperial like military uniforms.
This is Woody Harrelson and Tandy Newton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they're like conspiring, and Han comes up behind them and starts chatting with them. And they clearly don't want to have anything to do with him, basically tell him that. And he calls them and basically calls them on their shit and says, well, you have laser burns all over you and you're totally fine. So either you heal really fast or you took that off a dead guy.
Right.
You have a talent for sticking your nose in where it doesn't belong.
I just couldn't help but notice you're wearing a uniform pock full of laser burns, so either you healed real quick or you stole it off a dead man. You're not Imperial Army. You're thieves here to steal equipment for a job, and I want in.
Well, now we gotta shoot him.
No. Snap his neck.
And they see that as like, oh, fuck. But Han just sees this as, this is me basically showing you that I'm not an idiot, but I want in. He's really trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
And everything, when you see all these clips combined, all you get is he just wants to prove himself.
Yep.
It's just a prove it movie for him. He talks about how good of a pilot he is. Lando laughs. Like, he says he's going to be the best pilot in the galaxy. So all these things, and clearly because the climax is absolutely going to be the Kessel Run.
Yeah.
It's absolutely going to be the later part of the movie. I'm very confident on this. I mean, I could be wrong, but based on the way everything seems, it very much seems like the Kessel Run is going to be the last sort of hurrah of the movie.
Right.
And so clearly that's going to be the thing that makes his name and the thing that really cements him as the pilot he wants to be.
Right.
And the character that he's trying to be the entire movie.
It's really good writing that they would identify that as his main motivator as a younger man, because we know him best as a slightly more mature man who still exhibits evolved demonstrations of that same emotion.
Yep.
You mean you've never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Yep.
This like pride and this kind of ego bruise of the fact that they don't really know or care who he is, except he's able to keep it cooler when he's a little bit older. Whereas when he's a boy, for the lack of a better word, he's like, I want to show you what I can do. I want to be the best I can be.
Yeah. It's really cool. It
They
makes me excited.
match really well as the same guy.
And it also works because then you have like old Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens correcting Rey to make sure that no, it's 12 parsecs. Like,
Right. It still matters to him as an old man.
It still matters to him because it's
Yeah.
it's such a big thing that really made his name.
Right.
And at this point, his name is what gets him in trouble. But at the younger age, that's all he cared about was making a name. So that's kind of what I'm getting, and it gets me really excited. Some of the exchanges between Lando and Han, quit while you're ahead. And then Han replies, but quit while you're behind.
Yeah.
It's just great. And the fact that they like the banter from one another, like you can see that it's clearly like right out of the gates, they're going to have the rivalry friendship from the beginning.
What is this card game they're playing?
They're playing Sabacc. So
Is that like a dirty game? Is
No.
that like a shyster game?
Sabacc is like poker of the galaxy far, far away.
So it is. It's a seedy.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's seedy, but it all depends on they're playing it in a seedy way because they're playing it in like a back room.
Okay.
But it could be a game that could be played with class, or it could be a game that could be just done between friends that isn't in a shady way.
Are they playing it in that casino in The Last Jedi?
That's a really good question. Probably somewhere. There's also different versions. So they're playing Corellian Spike, which is a version of Sabacc. And also, if you pronounce Sabacc incorrectly around Lando and call it Sabacc, he'll correct you.
You sure will.
So this is Sabacc?
Got it. That's another great thing. Just little things like that. The fact that he will correct Han on saying Sabacc correctly, but he won't call him Han.
Right.
So.
Right. Oh yeah, he's such a little
Just like
shit.
he's totally a shit, just
Yeah.
trying to like be the big, like make himself seem like the big person, like the
Right.
big guy, big shot on campus.
Right.
There was a featurette that shows like a huge like water snake slug thing that Han has to go up against, or it looks like Han's gonna have to face down, or
Yeah, and like the Triwizard Tournament.
that's almost what it looked
Yeah.
like. It was really strange. I actually was expecting a creature like that in The Last Jedi. They really made those kind of implications that it was going to be like a water monster of sorts. And I thought Rey was going to have to battle something like that in The Last Jedi, but we didn't really get to see that. So it'd be cool if maybe we saw sort of that angle in this movie, but it's only like a half a second shot that we've seen, and that's it. So who knows really what the context of that is at all.
I'm glad that they started to roll out more press for this thing, and I like you said, I think it's great that people are having a better attitude about it. But we're 2 weeks out; they can cool it. No more. I don't need to see any more.
I know.
And it opens at Cannes?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
No, the 15th.
Oh, okay, not for a little while.
So, but it's still 10 full days before it comes out for the rest of the world. So we're going to get the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, and all the main critics are going to get to see it 10 days ahead of time. And yeah,
I'll check its tomato meter score just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to read any reviews specifically.
Yeah, no, I won't read reviews either. I don't want to get like a major overarching spoiler. And
Exactly.
obviously make your own opinions. That's too.
Anything else you want to add?
A couple other little things, but not much. Lando's tour of the Falcon was super cool.
Yep.
Absolutely love that. Donald Glover, you can just see, is in his own and loves being Lando. And
Yep.
I mean, who wouldn't love being Lando? Being in Star Wars universe is amazing, let alone being one of the characters with the most swag in the galaxy.
Wasn't it interesting when he introduced himself as Captain Lando Calrissian?
Yeah.
Because you never hear of him that way.
No, you don't. That is a really interesting point, just and also specifying that too. Another thing, just to kind of show up Han,
Yeah.
this aspiring pilot,
Right.
and Lando is captain. He's captain of the Millennium Falcon.
Which you would say, too, if that was your ship.
Absolutely. And that was one other thing that I did learn from Last Shot was specifically Han actually destroys the Falcon himself on purpose. Like makes it as dirty and shitty as it is, because he just felt so out of place in Lando's pimped out Supreme Falcon.
Really?
That he made it look like shit on purpose.
That's interesting.
And he just felt like, he made it as dirty and messy as possible so that he would feel comfortable and no one else.
He would feel more at home. Plus, it kind of makes it kind of undersells the Falcon a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I interpreted that also, and it didn't really say it explicitly, but it makes a lot of sense that they're smugglers. They need to be more discreet than having this insanely pimped out vessel. I mean,
right.
Drug dealers would say a different thing in the world, but sometimes having spinners on their car.
Yeah, you're right.
But no, I thought that was kind of an interesting element, but I'm sure he had to remove Lando's cape room, which we got a nice glance at. The cape room was referenced a bunch of times in the last shot.
Yes, he's a real clothes horse.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing in this movie more than anything, though.
Right.
They're really going to emphasize that and play on that as being part of his role.
That's cool.
Lando also won the Falcon playing cards, too. So that was something that was mentioned in one of the snapshots, one of the little trailers.
Why would you put the Falcon on the line?
Because they're gamblers. They're like Lando, especially. He's a gambling addict, so that's his problem. So how he won it and lost it,
right?
And that's the reason why Han also never gambled it away. Because Han, we don't know how that card game is going to go, but we're going to find out.
Right.
And Han's going to be winning, whether it's fair and square, or maybe he wins in a dirty way. Who knows?
I kind of hope he does win in a dirty way.
I hope he wins in a dirty way too.
I don't know if they'll do that though, Disney.
You mean like Han not shooting first?
Yeah. I don't know if they would be like. I think
that was
awesome.
A Lucas decision for Han to not shoot first.
It wasn't Disney's fault, but it just like it seems like they might be really trepidatious about having their hero do anything that's immoral.
I really hope that's not the case, because he should be doing a lot of things immoral in this movie.
I know.
Just a couple other final points. Chewie finding his place next to Han as a co-pilot in Millennium Falcon. There's some cool shots around that. There's one where Kira's in the co-pilot seat and doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
Right.
It just kind of premeditates to that "you're 190 years old" line, where he realizes how old Chewie is, because he's impressed by how well Chewie can maneuver a cockpit. So that was kind of cool. And the last 2 points kind of on Dryden Voss. He is the one who hires them for the Kessel Run, very clearly.
This is Paul Bettany.
Yeah, so he either hires them for the Kessel Run or some other mission. So I don't know whether there's going to be 2 missions in this movie or 1. I'm getting kind of the impression that there might be 2. But he clearly hires them and is their boss at one point in the movie, and is the one that brings on Beckett of sorts.
Right.
And also he's sitting on a couch with Kira when he says this, in a way that they look very comfortable with each other. Ooh. And also this is clearly, as time has passed and Han hasn't seen Kira in a while, and she's with Beckett at this point, so maybe that plays sort of an element to it, where there's a bit of a love triangle with a criminal, and she kind of
she's
goes
gone
that
off and
side.
Gotten herself an edgy space boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
But she throws him a bone, and she's like, "But my new boyfriend can get you a job."
Yeah, so that's kind of what I got as the impression
Yeah.
as to how those characters are going to be reintroduced and introduced into this.
Cool.
So, I mean, everything I've seen has made me really happy.
It's starting to come together, isn't it?
It really has.
Yeah.
A couple other things. It's projected to make $170 million its opening weekend,
I know it's doubled Black Panther's pre-sales.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
Although Black Panther was sort of an exception. People didn't realize how good that would be until
You're right.
it came out,
It was
and then they got it.
It was a bit of a sleeper.
But there was a while there where people weren't thinking that it was going to even make $100 million.
There are still people on Reddit who are talking about it like it might bomb. Like, even if the movie is terrible, even if it gets 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, there's not going to be a Star Wars movie that doesn't make at least $100 million opening weekend. It's never going to happen.
Well, I wouldn't say that. If it had 1%, I would be surprised if it made $100 million opening weekend.
How would it have 1%?
It would never have 1%. But in that ridiculous hypothetical.
If it was 1%, I think you'd have more people going to see it.
The IMAX poster is above and beyond my favorite poster for this movie.
Yeah.
It is so much better than the rest of them. It has this very cool Falcon silhouette in the background, and Han's out front and in the background. It's really cool. They have a ton of posters out for this movie. Tons of different variants for countries, and
they're really rolling out the press, which I
but
guess
I
they've
love
always
this
done for
one.
Star Wars, but obviously the preamble to this movie feels different than the other ones.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because they didn't do any for so long, and now they're doing more than they've ever done.
Right.
or more than they've ever done in the last while. I didn't realize this, but the four-armed monkey character, who's part of what looks like he's part of Beckett's crew, Jon Favreau does the voice on him. His name's Rio, the character. So I didn't really realize that, but I recognized the voice, so I was like, I got to look that up, and it was Jon Favreau.
He is a heavily involved Lucasfilm family member, isn't he?
Yeah, he is really ingrained in there now, so that makes me excited. Also, did you see the Arrested Development: A New Hope?
No.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, really?
So Ron Howard does a voiceover of a parody of if A New Hope were like shot like Arrested Development.
Oh, great.
You gotta watch it. It's
Okay.
super funny. It's just it's great that he's so willing to just have like fun bringing in all his different elements.
Why not?
Well, I think it was Colbert he was on. I could be wrong on that one, where they even did like a little promo for Solo in like a Happy Days theme song
Yeah, I saw
style.
that.
So that was kind of
Right.
cool too. Star Wars is looking for an ethnic female with strong preference for African American, 18 to 26 years old, to portray a character of the name Caro. Caro is described as having captivating naturalness and ease to her manner. Caro is a leader and problem solver with
This is for episode
and
9?
a smart. He's a leader and problem solver, smart with a great sense of humor and strong will. All this comes to her effortlessly, and this is for episode 9. Yes.
Interesting.
So that will be a character that was released about a week or so ago, but we were in Florida, so we weren't able to kind of report on that one. But that's really cool. It obviously won't be the name Caro in the end, but this character seems really cool. Well, they rarely ever go with the names that they have, and they actually release out there too.
We just have Akira in this new movie. Why would we have Akira and a Caro?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Caro is what they've got here. But that's really interesting. I mean, who knows what this character's role is going to be? It could be someone to kind of fill the shoes of a strong female presence like Holdo and Leia. But no, it's encouraging to see. It could be a love interest for someone like Poe if they don't go the Rey route. So that's kind of interesting.
I think that's more likely.
I think that I would way prefer that. I don't like Rey and Poe. It doesn't make sense.
No, it
there's
doesn't.
there's been no good foreshadowing for that.
It's entirely built from this weird little smile they shared at
Exactly.
the end of The Last Jedi.
And they've even met twice. It was stupid.
Yeah.
So, they're also casting 9 new characters. Now, this is one that's received less attention. So
This
maybe
is the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, this is one that's received less attention. So as a result, I'm thinking may have less credit to it.
Didn't we talk about this on the podcast?
Nope.
Okay.
But specifically that they're hiring, they're looking for 9 new characters, 5 of which need to be men who are of, I guess, are capable of doing physical stunts.
Right.
And so that we just assume that if there's 5 men needing to be capable of physical stunts, it makes sense to probably be Knights of Ren.
Right.
I think there were more Knights of Ren seen in that flashback clip than 5, but I mean, some may have died. That's pretty
It
reasonable.
doesn't really matter.
No, exactly. But it's nice that they're expanding out the cast. It really means that there's definitely going to be a time has passed, and we're going to see some new introductions of characters.
I hope this movie's a blowout.
Oh, I hope it's like an absolute like monster, like
Yeah.
where they pull out all the stops.
It should
it's
be
a
mayhem.
giant war. Lando better come back. All of those
He
things.
really should.
He really should.
Especially with the revamp of Lando's character through Donald Glover.
Well, I think that's what's most likely
Gonna
going
give
to lead to
give
it.
new life to that character for sure.
But I mean, there's a reason they haven't included him this far. I mean, probably in the fact that there really hasn't been a place for Lando yet. But this could be a right time, especially seeing as we've lost Carrie Fisher and like Mark Hamill's only gonna be coming back as a ghost, and Harrison Ford's not coming back. So let's bring back one of the original gang.
Yes.
So
and have a
please.
moment with Chewie and
Yeah, I mean, Lando was a huge part. Like, he blew up the second Death Star, and he mentions it like 40 times in the last shot. He really hangs his hat on that one.
Okay, we got to wrap this thing up.
We do, but we have to talk about one final thing.
All right.
And it was the one thing that I could not believe how bad our luck was. We talked about the next Star Wars animated show on our last podcast. We recorded it the day
I
before.
actually edited it out.
You edited it out? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that because then specifically the next day we find out about Resistance and then we don't have a podcast to record for over 2 weeks.
Right.
But Star Wars Resistance, we know almost no information on this other than some of the cast members like Bobby Moynihan. He's really the only one I remember off the top of my head. But there's a few other kind of regular names. Jim Rash is another one.
It's kiddish.
It's looking pretty kiddish. It's got an anime vibe that they're going for. I really don't like that for a longer, more serious TV show. I think they should have gone with more of a Rebels/Clone War animation. I would have just really preferred that. It's something that's more pleasing to look at. I feel like you can get emotion across better. You can get to know the characters better and see them more as people as opposed to like drawings and cartoons. But it's about Kazuto Ziano, a young pilot recruited by the Resistance and tasked with a top-secret mission to spy on the growing threat of the First Order. We're going to have BB-8, Poe, and Phasma in there at some times here and there. It takes place before The Force Awakens, but that's really all we know, and it'll be really interesting to kind of see where that one goes.
Bam.
There we go.
All right. If you want to make a comment on the podcast, you can tweet us at Recorder66. You can email recorder66podcast@gmail.com. Send us a voice memo if you like. Next week, we will be back with the third 20-minute segment of Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. So watch up to the end of the first hour of the movie, and you'll be caught up to us by next week. And in the meantime,
may the Force be with you.